You're listening to Help Me, I'm a Comedian on ABC Radio, where a comedian shares an issue or an incident that they're struggling with, and our therapist tries to help out. Dr Rachel Hannam is from North Brisbane Psychologists. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Ashwin.
And our comedian guest today is Richie Goodacre. Hello, Richie.
How's it going?
Well, thanks. Can we start with your story?
Basically, I was born, somehow the oxygen got sort of cut off from my brain, so, I was sort of born early so that the signals for the brain to, for the legs and stuff to work is, kind of blocked. So, as a result, I'm just, in a wheelchair, wheelchair bound. But luckily not as, there's different sort of levels of cerebral palsy. There's people, who you might not even notice. They just sort of walk with a limp, or their speech might, be a bit affected. But, and then there's sort of on the other side of the spectrum, there's people who sort of need to help at getting out of bed in the morning, all that sort of thing. I sort of fall in the middle, I guess. When I was a kid and all that stuff, I think there's always this assumption that I sort of had to face bullying and stuff like that. But kids and stuff, that they were fine. Well, in regards to adult life and just maybe in comedy in general, it's just the only sort of people are usually pretty accommodating, but I guess sort of the only frustrating thing is just obviously certain venues that I make do. I can sort of improvise and get around it. It can be tiring when I'm getting out the door and realising the process I have to go through.
So is that a recurring theme for you, feeling like a burden?
I try to block it out when I can, but it's very difficult. It's an ongoing struggle, I think. I used to live in New Zealand, and I go there every year. And I went to visit a friend who I've kind of liked since I was about 5, which I didn't think anything of it for a while because I thought I would get over it. I had to go to a wedding at the time, and that's when you're in that headspace, that's the worst place to be in. Someone who found love, I made it through the wedding, but I had to leave shortly afterwards, and I didn't get to say goodbye because I'm I can't deal with this. So I always find myself comparing them to her, which I need to sort of get out of the headspace because she's also it's not like she's available.
Hi, I'm Richie. For those hoping for a stand-up comedian, I'm sorry.
Can you tell us a little bit about what impact having cerebral palsy has on your dating life?
It doesn't have a huge one as you'd expect, but it's it's sort of an issue. I talked about this story where probably one of the later dates I went on, and you're actually you feature in this. I was at the Pet a Tavern and met up with this girl from Plenty of Fish, I think it was, and it was going alright, and we were playing pool, and Ashwin came up, and he was like, one of the acts has to pull out. He's sick. Can you fill in? I'm like, okay. So I went up and did my set. I crushed. Doesn't matter. But I only like some people. And the girl I was on a date with got particularly drunk, right? And then she was pushing me back up to the tavern part, and I was on a little it came up to a little sort of gradient, little slant, and I got on the path, and because she was drunk, I fell out, and had to get put back in my chair. And then, they went back to hers, and then, not wanting a repeat of what happened, I just sort of started crawling out of my chair, and, and then, I think, then, it was weird, I sort of, we didn't talk about the accessibility issue, but then I was just no, it's probably best that, we don't do another, have another date, but then, months later, she reconnects on Tinder just to say, the wheelchair thing would have been an issue. I'm like, oh cool, that's cool. You didn't even probably say anything there, but it's whatever. So I don't know. Sometimes not everyone's going to be like her, but I guess it really depends on in regards to dates, what you have planned to do. I guess I think most people, when I've been on a date, it was pretty sort of open-minded. I guess they do sort of. It's always going to come up. They do it. They sort of wonder about that, the whole, sex thing.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how to respond to that. I'm like, yeah, I guess I can do it. Yeah, I can. I mean, yeah.
So women do ask you?
Yeah. Feeling out of curiosity, I guess. Not like hey, if it's yes, then yeah. But
let's go.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't know myself until that happened.
Sometimes people say to me, "Oh, you're Indian. My friend's Indian.
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys should date." Do you get the wheelchair equivalent of that?
Yeah. Or I've been had a couple people like recommended to just recommended to me. I guess it's just where it's just like. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it, but it's just like kind of what I was mentioning before. I'm not going to just purely based on, hey, you're in a wheelchair, I'm in a wheelchair, kind of thing. That's a weird that's a weird commonality to.
A pretty superficial basis for a relationship.
Yeah, I get the whole my friend's in a wheelchair. Well, do you know that person? Annoyingly, sometimes, I do. I was doing that just that joke on stage about that, but then I was in the middle of doing that joke, and then I realised, right in the centre, there was a guy in a wheelchair that I knew. I want to point it out there. I'm not opposed to dating someone in a wheelchair, but I got to find, there's got to be a connection there. Before that, we've got to connect on personality level.
Yeah,
and then but. I do sort of. I've hung out with people in wheelchairs, before. I do, and I try to block it out. But it is. I do wonder about how society and how they sort of the looks and stares I get. 'Cause sometimes it's a lot harder. Sometimes if you're both in wheelchairs to sort of get around the day, trying to order food and then just the simple things and usually I have someone to help out, but it's sort of sometimes it's the blind leading the blind. So it's really. It can when you just feel it when you feel these stares. It can be kind of hard, but I've learned to sort of block that out.
You're listening to ABC Radio and Help Me, I'm a Comedian, where we talk to a comedian. Today we're speaking with Richie Goodacre, and a therapist, Dr Rachel Hannam, is also joining to provide some therapeutic advice.
Being in a wheelchair comes with its fair share of doctor's appointments. I like going in there because they're like, "Oh, hey Richie, take a seat." "Yeah, one step ahead of you, lady."
Tell me about. I see your dad at gigs all the time.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with your dad and your parents?
I think it's pretty decent. They're pretty supportive. I do sort of. I'll often sort of confide in them sort of how lonely I am, and sometimes it's sort of hard because I don't think they know exactly what to say in that regard.
If there's a parent out there whose child might have cerebral palsy, do you have any advice for them about how to do that job of parenting well?
I don't like to sort of be babied and stuff like that. I don't like to feel like I resent the sort of word special. You know what I mean? I'm just a regular person. So just try and treat people like a I guess more regular person. Obviously there's barriers that you got to ability issues and stuff like that, but we're all human.
Can I ask you something about that, Richie? You don't want to be babied and you want people just to treat you like any other unique individual. We're all different.
Yeah.
What advice have you got for how people could ask you about your disability, and what works well for you, and have people ever been too intrusive or inappropriate? I'm just curious, your experience.
I think people are usually, for the most part, people are really quite nervous to sort of ask about it. They'll start off, "I hope it's not offensive. Can you tell me?" I'm like, I sort of just no, it's fine. I don't want to pigeonhole a certain group of people, but I've been in taxis and stuff where I'm just sitting there, and then the taxi driver's like, "Oh yeah, what happened?" I'm like, What do you mean? Oh, okay. I mean, that's a weird way of asking something,
Yes.
but it's very.
Are these Indian taxi drivers? I can say because I'm Indian.
Some of them are, yeah.
Because I feel like we're a blunter people. Like,
Yeah. It is very straight to the point. Like, yeah, oh, did you have a car accident? Oh, no. It's like,
Yes.
Like, it's weird that question comes before hello.
yeah. Every time I go back to India, the first question is, "Oh, you're looking a bit fat." That's just how Indians can.
That's
be.
not a question, Ash.
No, it's not. It's a statement. They'll tell you. The other cultural element in your life is you've moved over from New Zealand
Yeah.
to Australia.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I'm not really good at making friends in general. So, and having to kind of essentially start again. I used to be like friends with like a lot of my neighbours and stuff, so I wouldn't have to actually organise hanging out and stuff. They'd just come over. That was kind of difficult, but it was something that I knew it was something that like needed to happen because it was just a point where like mum and dad were struggling, like, you know, with jobs and stuff like that. So it just sort of made the most sense. But yeah, it's like about me being like 12 at the time. I was like, no, that's very, very, yeah. It took a long time to sort of get used to this like sort of new life, I guess.
Were you homesick for New Zealand?
Yeah, and in a sense, like I think there was probably at some point I was sort of, you know, looking at going like moving there, but I don't. Yeah, I don't see that now. I think it was just at a point where it's like maybe comedy wasn't flourishing as much for me as much as it sort of is now. I don't know. Being single, being single and wanting someone in general, like that does sort of, you know, affects, you know, my mood and my motivation, the ability to get on the day. Because like, you know, I feel like all the relationships dedicated to that sort of thing. There's like, you know, just an assumption that you're gonna. Yeah, there's someone out there for everybody, but and like I don't. So I do let it kind of affect my mood a bit.
Get to you.
Yeah.
Rachel, is love sort of like anger that you can get fixated on it and ruminate it and hold on to it for years? Or what a ways to let go if that happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, the term lovesick, you know, love sickness is a real thing. It's a real thing in our minds and bodies that we can be quite obsessed and fixated to the point where what are your symptoms, Richie? Do you sometimes get kind of a churning in your stomach or butterflies, or how do you feel it?
If I know I'm going to see that person I'm thinking about, obviously it'll get me sort of excited.
I just wonder if it interferes with your ability, you know, this unrequited love, this love sickness, if I can call it that, with your ability to get on with your day and try and meet other people. Or
Not necessarily like just with, you know, liking her. I think just being single and wanting someone in general, like that does sort of, I think there's just an assumption that you're gonna, you know, there's someone out there for everybody, but and like I do let it affect my mood a bit.
Get to you.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a quick story? When I separated from my first husband and I was single and working here in the city and walking along the river, the Brisbane River here with another psychologist who I really respected. And there was couples, it was in the afternoon, there was couples all along the walkway. And I said to my colleague, who was also single, I said, it really affects me when I see all these happy couples. It makes me really sad. So similar to what you're saying. I said to her, what about you? And she said, yeah. I said, what do you do about it? She said, I don't look. I said, what about weddings? I don't go. And, you know, so I think she was really disciplined with her focus, knowing that she could easily let herself feel really sad and like she's missing out. So she's
on a visual diet.
Yeah.
Just cutting out all the carbs of happy people.
Well, coupled happy people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good advice.
I'm like, you know, huge like movie buff, and pretty much a lot of movies there's a sort of romantic element at some point. It's hard to watch, even though it's, you know, what you're watching is pretend. It's like, oh yeah, but
my colleague would say, get another movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I bring us back to? We talked about Indian taxi drivers before, so
yeah.
I come from a culture.
Bring us back to Indian
I'll bring
taxi
us back to the taxi drivers, because I come from a culture where romance is not such a big deal. It's more of a practical arrangement. And then I come to Australia and New Zealand, where it's all about falling in love and feeling that heart flutter and finding someone and going on dates. And do you think we overemphasise romance to our detriment?
I think so. There's actually, it's hard to articulate, but like if you, most of your reality shows and stuff, it's just like, it's all centered around, this idea of the perfect, love and the perfect person. It's just like, so, and then like, when on Valentine's Day, where it's like, and like, a lot of people, some jaded, but, some people, will say, like, call it like, Single Awareness Day or whatever. And I do, I get that. I get, because it's like, if you can't can't turn on the radio or do anything without, like, it's sort of like, people are in love. People are in love. Hey, you want to hear about people in love? Hey, what are you doing? It's like, okay.
It's like Christmas when you're alone.
Yeah. So it'd be cool if, like, sort of people, like, touch on the idea that being single can be great as well.
I don't think it's just about cutting out romance. I think you have to find something else that provides some warmth. So, like I was talking about comedy before, or meditation or something. What do you think about, Rachel? Are there good substitutes for this romantic obsession?
Well, here's what I think. I agree with Richie. We are very focused in this culture in a certain way on beauty, romance, happy ever after. And this culture's done that for hundreds of years. Here's what I think. We don't focus on why we're chasing that, because I often say this to my clients. We think we're chasing goals, we're chasing feelings. And I think we're chasing the relationship, the partner, because we think we'll feel happiness, we'll feel aliveness, we'll feel joy, we'll feel peace, we'll feel self-worth. And if that's what we're chasing, there's many ways to cultivate some of those things. And I love that the Latin word libido means life force. And another colleague, great mentor of mine, talks about eros, and he says eros is not just the sexual erotic love. It's kind of a life force, and I track this in my own life, and I can see how music and friends and other things can give me that eros, that aliveness, that it doesn't just come through a romantic partner. And even if you find a nice partner, which I have, it doesn't keep you in a state of bliss 24/7. No. You still need to find where you get your aliveness, your life force, no matter what. So I definitely think we're too focused on romance.
So your partner's more like an accessory, like heels.
I didn't say that. But, I think we're chasing the feeling of aliveness and of joy, and there's many ways to get that.
Richie, have you done any exploration to seeing where you might have some emptiness inside, or why you're chasing romantic love so much?
I've always had low self-esteem in general, and
When you say you've got low self-esteem, Richie, how much of that do you think is or has been related in the past to your disability, to your body, to it not doing what you want?
Yeah, that's part of it, and not feeling that I have to fight a lot harder than maybe others just to get noticed. And I like comedy because it's the feedback is immediate. You're like, oh, cool, they like me, I'm onto something. I've always struggled with the idea of belonging and purpose and all that kind of deal. But with the relationship with comedy, I could be feeling that one way, and then I'll do a good set, and it kind of tucks those that voice away for a bit of time. The voice sort of just goes into another room for a while, and then it'll come back later.
But still, it's given you such a strong taste of sort of being noticed, self-acceptance.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it.
I used to play this a sport called boccia, which is like basically it's like indoor bowls. How do I equate it? It's like lawn bowls for people with a future. And,
Do you feel like you've inspired people in ways along the way?
Yeah, I'm not. I think the word inspiring is very overused in the society, but stuff like that,
sure.
and especially people, call me inspiration just for being at a pub, and just like being out. But I feel like I kind of I probably have I've sort of. I've seen the barriers in it, especially with venues and stage and stages and stuff like that, and I still am able to have a gig every couple of days a week, and it not being an issue, and I have I don't know if it's directly, but I have since doing comedy. There's been a couple other people in wheelchairs come through the ranks and stuff. I don't know if I don't have an ego that big to go. Yeah, that's because of me. But I guess you never know.
It is interesting what you say, though, that you don't want to talk about your disability all the time. You just want to talk about your individual characteristics, but people box you in that way, and they won't let you be as individual as you feel.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes in social situations, in social groups and stuff, I don't feel as involved in as sort of involved in the conversation, because it's unless we're talking about disability, you're not going to be you're not going to be interested in this. I'm like, no, I'm a human. I have interests and stuff. I can, I could probably have knowledge on what you're talking about. I can contribute, but it's just it's sort of still sort of it's still very much this narrative of but you're different. You're on the outer, it's being on the outer and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like we're slowly getting better as a society, but it doesn't get any less sort of difficult to deal with.
One of the things I love about my job is I get to see that everybody is as complex a being as everybody else.
Yes.
And I guess in this culture, we like the human mind is such that we do box people in.
Yeah.
Whether it's psychologist, Indian, disability, and the million other labels we put on people. But if people can keep in mind that you're as complex as they are, as the next person, and that's what our uniqueness is all about.
I don't know. I'm a weird guy. So I just want, hopefully not the off-putting type of weird, but I would do like people to see that that I can be fun weird, I guess, as opposed to just a guy.
You've been listening to Help Me, I'm a Comedian. I'm Ashwin Segkar, and you've been hearing from comedian Richie Goodacre and psychologist Dr Rachel Hannam.